From the deep symbolism of Yuji's blood-stained conscience, to the brand new anime-only scenes, and even the possibility of being shown incomplete frames of animation, this video breaks down the new Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 trailer frame by frame in order to extract all the information we can possibly know about what is to come. That's right, a trailer for part 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen's Culling Games arc has recently been revealed, and despite only showing the execution and perfect preparation mini-arcs, there is a lot of stuff to unpack, because this trailer is, well, it's a bit controversial. People have different opinions about it, and there is maybe some issues, but mostly I think it looks very good. Which, yes, means there's a lot of manga spoilers that are going to be discussed, alright? You've been warned. For some reason in the last video, the massive spoiler warning at the beginning wasn't enough to deter people. Now, the trailer is for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, but only Part 1, which will be releasing episodically in January 2026, with the first 2 episodes, which is the Yuji extermination arc, being compiled into a movie for theatrical release even earlier than that in November and December. People have been speculating about what Part 1 will actually include, but based on what the trailer has shown and how Mappa decided to use a similar structure for Season 2, I think it's actually pretty easy to figure out. Including the parts with Naoya that were not shown at the end of Season 2, the execution and perfect prep mini-arcs are around 12 to 13 chapters worth of content in total. Assuming 2.5 to 3 chapters per episode, all of this content can easily be covered in the span of 5 episodes, which is the same number of episodes that Hidden Inventory was back in Season 2. And back when Season 2 was releasing, the first 5 episodes of Hidden Inventory acted as the first core of the season, with the rest of the season resuming almost a whole month after Hidden Inventory had ended. It's very likely that we're going to see a similar structure for Season 3, since we've all been shown the trailer with just the first 2 mini-arcs. They will likely release these mini-arcs together, take a 1 to 2 month break, and then start releasing the entire rest of the series, which will mark the Culling Games officially starting. But it is completely possible that this 1 to 2 month break is actually a little bit longer, although I suspect it will still release within 2026. At least that is what seems most likely. Anyway, with all of that cleared up, let's actually start breaking down this insane looking trailer frame by frame. But first, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out those membership options for special perks. Let's go. Okay, I want to start things off by focusing on Yuji and Yuta, who seem to take up the majority of this trailer, and rightly so, because the old and new main characters meeting for the first time and fighting to the literal death is a huge event that deserves the attention Mappa seems to be giving it. The trailer starts with this great shot of Yuji sitting on a set of stairs, and he's illuminated by the light of a blood-red stained glass window. This already demonstrates the power that anime has over manga, because unlike in the manga, this scene in the anime uses the blood-red lighting to symbolize Yuji's blood-stained conscience as a result of Sukuna's rampage in Shibuya. It also symbolizes his blood bond to his blood-manipulating brother Choso, who comes in this scene and has a nice little heart-to-heart with Yuji. Yeah, straight off the bat, we're getting some incredible imagery and anime flair. We then proceed to see Yuji fighting the curses that have spread throughout Shibuya, which in the manga is a very short little collection of pages, but here it seems like we're properly extending these fights. Despite the trailer being kind of hard to follow because all the little parts are kind of spread throughout in random spots, I have actually managed to piece this entire sequence of events together, so walk with me here. This flying dragon curse is scaling a skyscraper that we see Yuji leap up from before absolutely deleting this cursed spirit from existence with strong punch, which then creates this big blue explosion of blood and cursed energy in the sky, and also explains why we see Yuji falling from a great height and then running away from the very same skyscraper with the cursed energy that he expended still lingering above it. As this goes down, Yuta Okotsu is seen stalking Yuji in the skyscraper opposite, which is a really neat addition to the scene, because in the manga, Yuta just kind of appears with no real context. We see like 2 seconds of Yuta's entrance onto the battlefield, which I thought was actually kind of underwhelming, but this is literally just a 2-second clip with no context, no hype music or anything like that. It might not even be the finished product, so I'll be patient and let them cook, but I did think it looked just a little bit lacking of flair. The actual fight looks amazing though, and even gets extended to the point where they are fighting in what looks like a theater. Now, I say this because in the manga it literally all happens within a single chapter on the street, so it's very nice to see them getting creative with it, because again, this is a fight that deserves some recognition. It's very significant. Anyway, here are some key details that I picked up on from this very sequence that you might have missed. First of all, we see Yuta holding his sword towards the ground as it shakes in his hand, which indicates that Yuji is likely right below it and trying to stop it from reaching him. What's very interesting about this frame though is that behind Yuta there seems to be the damaged body of a cursed spirit with purple blood covering it, and that red looking thing could also be its eye. Now in the manga, no cursed spirits other than Rika were involved in this fight, so is it possible that one got in Yuta's way? Or could it be that this is Yuta fighting cursed spirits on his way to find Yuji? Either way, it deviates from the manga very slightly. Now within the theater where they are fighting, we also get a nice moment of Yuta using his purple cursed energy to give him a big jump boost towards Yuji. First of all, I just like the fact that it's purple and we're keeping that trend from volume 0. Mappa's been a little bit inconsistent with the color of cursed energy, but I'm really glad that they kept Yuta's love theme and had it be this pink-purple color. Anyway, this scene is very cool for 2 reasons. One, because when Yuji jumps, it is exactly the same way that Sukuna does it when he's fighting Jogo, but also when Yuji jumps, we don't see any cursed energy be expended. Only when Yuta does it do we actually see cursed energy being used, which I believe is when we are getting the explanation that Yuta uses cursed energy to enhance his strength to make up for his lacking natural physicals, which Yuji has the advantage in. Because as we know, Yuji has raw physical strength, while Yuta just enhances his strength with his insanely huge amounts of cursed energy. So this moment basically demonstrates the explanation. Another neat detail here is that Yuta is surrounded by a lot of cursed energy that's going all over the place when he does this jump, which kind of hints at cursed energy control and efficiency being one of his main weaknesses. We then see Yuji dodging a sword swing from Yuta, which looks kind of weird, and I imagine this is the moment that made people question the animation, because I have to admit, it really does look odd. It looks like it's completely lacking momentum and is just completely wrong. But I have a very good explanation for this, so just hear me out. Assuming we don't use the cop-out answer of the trailer might just not be finished yet, I believe that Yuji dodging this sword strike is actually meant to be a slow-motion scene. That would make sense in the context of what's happening when you see it within the episode, because it is the kind of moment that you would show in slow motion. You know, a character narrowly avoiding a sword. It's not a weird thing to show in slow motion in anime, it's pretty normal. But when you place that moment in a very fast-paced trailer for literally less than a second, it looks very out of place and just wrong. So I don't think it's an animation issue, rather an error in the direction of the trailer specifically, which obviously doesn't have any impact on the actual show. We then get to see this very neat looking moment of a giant hand wrapping around Yuji as he's running away, which anyone who has read the manga will know that this is Rika grabbing Yuji so that Yuta can stab him and then revive him. After this moment, we get to see the aftermath of the fight when Yuji has been revived by Yuta and they are sat around a makeshift campfire. In one shot, we see Yuji clutching his bloodstained chest, which is where Yuta would have stabbed and healed him, but in another shot, we see him looking towards the camera with a very devastated look on his face. Now, I believe that this is the moment that Yuji asks Megami about Nobara's condition and gets told that she is unresponsive, which at the moment is meant to be very sad, but if you know, you know. Anyway, this is further supported by the fact that Megami is looking very sad and frustrated in the very next frame. Now, just before we finish up with the Yuta vs Yuji stuff, I wanted to point out this shot from earlier in the trailer of what looks like a dinner table set for 4. Now, I bring this up because I believe this is from the flashback vision Yuji has when Yuta kills him. You know, the flashback where he finds out that Kenjaku is his frickin' mother. I mean, what else could it be? Maki's home life is not that happy. I don't see why it would be a flashback to Megami's childhood, and even if it was, the table would be set for 3, not 4, which leads me to believe that the only option is that we're seeing Yuji's weird baby flashback. We also saw some quick shots of Yuji washing his hands of blood earlier in the trailer, which again symbolizes the guilt that Yuji feels from what Sukuna did. What's interesting though is we also see these big blood red hands, which could just be a visual that they are using to represent Yuji's guilt, but it could also be something completely different, which I will discuss later on when I get to the part about Maki. Okay, before I start chatting specifically about Maki and the Zenin stuff, I wanted to look deeper at some other key moments we are shown. Or, more specifically, I wanted to talk about when the main cast for Season 3 united at the Tomb of the Star with special grade sorcerer Yuki Tsukumo in order to go and confront Tengen. The first neat detail that I wanted to point out here is that in the shot of Yuki and the others entering the Tomb of the Star, we see a massive bloodstain on the floor, which at first seems like nothing more than background details. But when you realize where you actually are, you will also realize that this is the bloodstain left by Riko Omanai over a decade ago when Toji Fushiguro killed her. I really like that detail. It's really cool. Once we see the group actually enter Tengen space though, this is where things kind of get a little bit controversial when it comes to this trailer. The space Tengen resides in is presented as completely desolate and white in the manga, with no existing environment at all. It is literally just a room of pure white light that Tengen can mold to his will. In the trailer, it is shown to look like a computer program of sorts that they have stepped into, which I think is really very cool, and nobody, myself included, really gave it too much thought because it just so happens to perfectly suit exactly what this space is used for and what it should look like. I mean, it is meant to be a canvas that Tengen can shape however he chooses, just like a frame of animation, or as Dynamic Weeb suggested in his breakdown video, a computer program like Blender. But after speaking to some other people about it, I came to the realization that this might not actually be a design choice at all, but rather a literal frame of incomplete animation due to the fact that these lines are what animators use to create depth in a scene, and even the number tags are still floating about in the frame, all of which are things that animators have on their canvas when creating the season. It's become slightly controversial because on one hand it very well could just be incomplete animation, it's not impossible, but at the same time it perfectly fits what this space would look like, and it would make complete sense for them to base the design off what an animating program would look like. I personally hope this is genuinely what it looks like, and I also hope MAPPA aren't sloppy enough to release a trailer with unfinished animation to this degree. Some unrefined or unfinished scenes are completely fine, but leaving depth lines and tags is a different ballgame altogether. On the other hand though, when we see Tengen pull the prison realm out of her ass, she appears to be completely white, like fully white. Now in Gege's official colorings, Tengen is sort of a brown beige color, which means it is possible that this sequence is genuinely not completed, because I don't know why Tengen is just completely white. But again, I'm still leaning towards this being the actual design, and I really like it, even if it is an accident, to be honest. Like, even if it is just incomplete, I really hope it kind of stays like this. The main reason why I personally think that this design choice is completely deliberate and not an incomplete animation though, is because of the very cool way that Tengen uses the space to create holographic images in order to help us and the characters visualize the key information that Tengen explains about kenjaku and about the culling games in general. We see a holographic projection of kenjaku as well as a massive holographic projection of the colonies in Japan and Kogane. Because of the way Tengen uses this space, almost as if it is a computer program like Blender in order to create these visuals, I think the design of it being like a canvas for creating animation fits perfectly, and it might be completely deliberate. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we go down this kind of meta route. I mean, remember Naoya's, not Naoya, Naobito Zenin, when he talks about his animation. It's very meta. I think it would be a nice little thing for them to kind of throw in some of their own specialties into this aspect of the story. But I could be looking way far into it and it could just be a mistake. I'm gonna cope though and say it is completely deliberate and very creative, and I really like it. Now, having these visuals also opens up some other very exciting possibilities for us to potentially see things that Tengen talks about that we don't get visuals for within the manga, such as kenjaku battling 6's users in the past. Even just a still image in a projection would be so cool to see. This is still pretty controversial though, and I see other people having different takes on what this really is, so just be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, now that I've discussed the Tengen stuff, I wanted to quickly talk about Choso vs Naoya before moving on to Maki and the Zenins. There aren't really any subtle details I wanted to point out about the Choso and Naoya stuff, but I did want to talk about how insanely impressive they both look, and how insanely well animated this fight looks. It honestly is the best looking part of the trailer, hands down. I mean, it's making me think that MAPPA must genuinely hate women because Naoya has absolutely no right to look as unbelievably cool and terrifying as he does in this trailer. Why? The way he disappears in and out of frame while using his projection sorcery technique, along with the fluid animation and thin lines, just make him look so insanely cool, and it's making me even more excited for his fight against Maki Zenin later on in the Perfect Preparation mini-arc. Naoya is not the only one who gets a lot of love from the animators here though, because Choso has a stupidly cold moment where the saturation is turned all the way down and Choso locks in preparation for what I suspect is his finishing blow on Naoya before Yuta pulls up and knocks him out. They both look so cool and I cannot wait for this fight because the animation seems to have peaked here in the trailer. Anyway, let's move on to talk about what very much might be the highlight of part 1, Maki Zenin and the annihilation of the Zenin clan. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see that. I have been waiting for literal years to see Maki's new design in Mappa's anime style, and wow, they did not disappoint because she looks so stupidly cool in literally every frame she is shown in. We actually don't get to see much of her fighting the Zenin, but what we do see is genuinely majestic. This fight is probably the goriest and darkest Jujutsu Kaisen ever gets, with some absolutely brutal kills. I was initially concerned that Mappa would massively censor the violence, and as much as I still think that's a possibility to some degree, the fact Maki's blade can be seen poking through this dude's head makes me confident that Mappa is not scared to give us what we want. I find the bright purple lighting in this scene very interesting as well, and it makes me wonder where the hell she actually is within the Zenin HQ, because why is the floor purple? Like, I don't get it. I mean, it looks cool, I'm not complaining, but like, why? Anyway, the few scenes we get of her cutting down these Zenin NPCs are so cool, and I can't wait to see the full fight against the actual strong members of the Zenin. And speaking of the strong members, I have a theory that the giant red hands we see earlier on in the trailer are actually Junichi Zenin's curse technique. For those of you who don't remember, Junichi Zenin can summon giant hands that rain down a barrage of attacks from the sky. After all, the big red hands seem to be lying on the floor completely motionless in this frame, and they are considerably bigger than the chairs and stuff around them. So it's very clear that it is a giant hand. If that is the case, then I really like the choice of making it look like a colossal titan's hand with raw muscle exposed. I think it's very cool and creative, but again, I could be wrong about that and it could just be symbolism for Yuji. I do also appreciate the fact we only see Maki fighting the irrelevant fodder, because we get no actual spoilers about what the fight between her and the big dogs will look like. In conclusion, part 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 looks absolutely incredible, and I think 2026 is going to be an amazing year for Jujutsu Kaisen fans. I'm also hoping that we get maybe one more teaser trailer for part 1 of the season before it drops, and maybe some news about how many episodes it will be, as well as confirmation of when we can expect the rest of the season to air. To finish the video though, I wanted to quickly discuss something very important. Lots of TikTok readers have started spawning into my comment section recently, talking about how they can't wait for Gojo vs Sukuna in Season 3. If you have read the whole series instead of skipping to that fight or reading via TikTok, then you should know that there is a literal 0% chance that Gojo vs Sukuna will be in Season 3. That is well into the 220s of the chapter count, okay? We are nowhere near that point. It's going to be another 3 to 4 years before we see that fight animated, either in the form of Season 4 or a movie. But either way, however it's formatted, you can stop looking forward to it, because we are not getting any Gojo. We're probably not getting any Gojo. I still think it's very unlikely that we even end the series at Na-I'd win. All the Glazers and Copas think we're getting there, but if you do the math, figure out how many chapters normally go into a season of Jujutsu Kaisen, there is literally no way we are making it to Na-I'd win. I am very certain we're ending on the Megana reveal. That adds up in terms of the chapter count, and it's a very suitable kind of, cliffhanger to end on. It's also the case that a lot of readers, or, well, in quotations, readers, kind of forget how much of the Culling games there actually is and how long it actually is. Sure, there's like maybe you can count every fight on all 10 fingers, but the fights are very long. They're like 7, some of them are 7, 6 chapters each. Recruiting Hikari is like 3 to 4 chapters. There's loads of like flashback chapters for newly introduced characters, lots of in-between moments. It's a lot more than you realize, so I'm pretty certain we're not even going to see Gojo in this season, except from the occasional flashback. Anyway, as always, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a bit for some more Jujutsu Kaisen content.